Are you thinking about making a move in December of 2024? Perhaps you're going through some game plans and maybe you're going to take a break here and there and get back right into it in the new year. My name is Spencer Sue, and this year we've helped over 60 families with their moves, which is more than 20 times the average agent. So if you're looking to go over a game plan and want help with your move, either to buy, sell, do both, invest, I would love to set up a plan to go over with you so that we can help you every step of the way. Now, I'm going to change it up a little bit. Before, we kind of went over the live data, but I'm going to switch it up a bit. I'm actually going to be doing a slide share presentation instead. And that way I have all of the data already in place. We're going to be looking at many of the counties together as a macro. And then we're also going to be looking at the individual counties so you can see like how are those faring relative to the entire Bay Area. Let's get into it. So let's talk about the high level indicators that we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at one, inventory, right? So inventory basically is the current available residential properties actively listed for sale in the Bay Area. This is generally a sense as to how fast homes are being sold and the absorption rate. So it's basically a supply and demand indicator. So it's a really good early insight, especially when we try to compare this time versus the same time last year. So you can see like how are things trending, where are things going. We're going to be looking at the medium sold price, right? That's a very important indicator. Are prices going up, down, sideways? Number of days on market. What's the velocity of things? Are things changing much at all, or are they kind of the same? And then the number of closed sales. We'll see the total volume in these counties. Now, I'm going to be looking at first all of the counties in, let's say, the core Bay Area. This time I'm including Marin County. So we're looking at Santa Clara, San Mateo, Alameda, Contra, Costa, San Francisco, and Marin County. Sorry, Sonoma County, that whole area, Napa County. We are not including you guys at this point. But this gives you a little bit of a sense of those specific ones that I didn't mention. You can see the active amount of inventory is kind of the same. It's a little bit more than what it was of last year, but not too drastic. That's like what? That's less than 3-4% more. So nothing really big. But this is a big drop off from, as you can see from the October numbers, which is pretty interesting to see. So things are still getting absorbed. Things are not like sitting around. We saw a pretty big spike up of October 2024 versus 2023, but that has already changed pretty quickly as people are probably getting ahead of what they think prices will rise of next year. Median price, $1.286 million. It's a little bit of decline from October 2024, which is pretty normal, but it's still a good amount higher than the same time last year. So you had about an increase of about 4% or so versus last year in terms of median for the entire Bay Area. And also, this includes single family condos and townhomes. Medium days on market, slightly more, but not too drastic, 16 days versus the previous times of 14 days. Now, if you take a look at closed sales, the number of volume of homes that are selling, still more, 10% increase versus last year at 3386. And then let's talk about some generally key numbers, just how things are stacking now versus how it was in the past. And if you tune into the very end, we're going to be going over what does this mean if you're a buyer or potential seller. Inflation, you may have remembered about 2.5 years ago now, inflation peaked at 9.1%. Now it's at 2.6%, very modest and manageable. Interest rates right now, they had actually increased for a little bit, but they have decreased. Now it's at about 6.88% for a 30-year fixed versus the 8% versus 2023. Unemployment has, I think, increased slightly to like about 4.1% here in the Bay Area. Supply has increased slightly that you saw previously, about 3%. Population, the Bay Area doesn't necessarily, it's not like places like in Florida and Texas where there's so much areas for them to grow space. Now, we still always have a lot of people coming in from internationally, like primarily in India, a lot of people from Europe, a lot of people from other areas, especially as they work in tech. But the population isn't necessarily growing significantly, typically, at least in this core Bay Area. Now, the interesting part is the areas that have a little bit more land. Maybe think about like the areas of, I don't know, Tracy and these other areas, maybe San Joaquin Valley, these kind of places that are a little more inland, they're actually growing population wise. So depends on how you want to calculate this kind of core Bay Area. My metric here, the population, this includes those specific counties that we are referring to here. But generally, it's kind of hovering. It doesn't really change a whole lot. It doesn't really, it just doesn't change a whole lot. All right, a couple of key numbers on all those counties combined. The sold price per square foot in general is 860. List price offer relative to list price is 103.5% on average. 2,953 listings, month of inventory. A more balanced market is usually between 3 to 6 months, but that's rarely the case here in the Bay Area. So you can see it will generally always be a seller's market. Anything under three months is generally still a seller's market, and that's pretty much the case for every county almost at all times. Now let's go over specifically of the different counties itself. Let's talk about San Mateo. Active inventory, there's so few homes, right? Only 622 homes that is available, that is just active in terms of that's available to be purchased. So there's not a lot. So just keep that in mind. It's actually lower than it was last year. You saw a lot of the other areas increase, but that's because areas like San Mateo County are very desirable. And so because of that, people are wanting to move into those areas. So those are some interesting leading indicators. Median price, you can see quite a bit of increase, right? Versus last year, 1.677 versus last year, 1.55. So those are some interesting uh, findings. That's an increase of what, 120 78%. That's way more than all those other counties that we just saw on average. Medium is a little bit better. Nothing too drastic. 2 months, 2 weeks is pretty standard. Number of closed sales, a lot more sales than the previous year. That's also an increase, right? Here's some other key numbers so you can get some general ideas of what you can get there. So the sold price per square foot at 1,077. That is one of the highest in all of the counties, mainly because of the prime location. List price similar, 1.03. New listings not that much. Monthly inventory a little bit below the average. All right, let's take a look at Santa Clara County, right? Inventory, it's a little bit higher, but only by like 21 more homes versus last year. So it's still kind of been the same amount. But let's take a look at sales price. Sales price is also a pretty big increase, $1.598 million versus 1.45. That is a difference of a little bit higher than what we saw San Mateo County was at 8-9% versus last year already in November. Days on market, somewhat similar, not a whole lot there to comment on. Closed sales, look at this big jump though, 953 versus last year, 785. So the volume, similar with San Mateo County, is also increased. Price per square foot now, very comparable to San Mateo County. List price, even higher, right? Months of inventory, even less. So Santa Clara County remains as one of the most competitive and one of the best markets to be able to buy if you can afford to be able to buy and find such a place there. Mainly goes back to what I've been saying for many, many times now and many, many months. The return to office is real and you are experiencing and seeing this. Now let's take a look at some of the areas a little bit out. Alameda County. Has Alameda County been impacted at all? You can see active amount of inventory. It's actually a little bit, quite a bit higher, right? This is more than 10%, about 13, 14%. Median price, 1.1, but it's still 1.15 right now. It's still higher than it was last year. So it still continues to see an increase. In terms of days on market, somewhat similar, 13, 15 days. I mean, anything, unless it goes up to like 20 plus days, it's not really much of a difference. Closed sale has also increased. You can see general trends amongst it. That allows, there's more homes that are available. List price received still 104.9%. You saw, though, a key thing about this. You saw that prices weren't actually rising as much, right, versus the other counties. Yet the list price received is a little bit higher. This is because in Alameda County, there are certain cities where people like to play these kind of games. Think about places like Berkeley, Oakland. These areas, they like to play this game on purpose where they list it well below where it is really worth. Otherwise, you would see a bigger medium sales growth, but you don't. You can see the price per square foot is way less than Santa Clara and San Mateo County. So if you want a bigger home for the same amount of money, it is clear Alameda County is popular for that reason. Months of inventory, still very good, 1.8 months. So still heavily a seller's market. Now let's talk about Contra Costa County. This is even further out, right, for people to commute and go to. So let's see how that has impacted things. Active inventory, 1459 out of 1, 2, 3, 4 from November of last year. That's a nice increase. So there's more homes for people to choose from. Home prices also have gained, but it's one of the lowest, as you can see, 2% growth. Days on market, it's a little bit worse, right? 14 to 18 days. So that's kind of getting to that point, kind of creeping up to a little bit to that 21-day plus, that 3-week plus. Closed amount of sales, still similar trends that you see across all the places. And here you can see price per square foot, the lowest out of all the counties that we've seen. So this is the cheapest, right? List price received 101.2%, a lot closer to really what they list as a lot, pretty much a fair price. Months of inventory, highest relative to the four counties. Now let's wrap things up. We're going to look at San Francisco market update first. Take a look at this active inventory. Interesting trend though. This is one of the few counties that actually has less inventory now, right? 890 versus 1056 from last year. Okay. The price though has remained pretty flat. So this may mean a few things. Some people have decided to just take their homes off the market and not sell. Maybe they're just renting it out, right? Because if it was any other reason, they may have a good absorption rate, so it may be higher. But in this case, not really. So I think some people are just have stopped to give it up, but the price has still remained pretty stable in terms of it didn't necessarily keep declining. You can see the days on market is slightly better than it was before. So San Francisco was at 29, now they're at 27. This is way higher than the other areas, but it also depends on, that's because there's a lot more condos in San Francisco and those have not done as well. You can see the number of sales has increased by about 10%. And here you can see the other key numbers. Sold price per square foot is actually still one of the higher ones out of all counties. List price is still good. So a lot of people still stick with a low list price number. Months of inventory is the highest that you just saw out of all the counties. So those are just things to be mindful of. Now, we'll wrap things up with Marin County. So Marin County, in terms of new active inventory, is less, 360 versus last year at 412. If you take a look at the median sales price, one of the very few counties that actually have a decline in prices, right? And that has probably a lot to do with a lot of the companies in San Francisco have not had a strong return to office, but a lot of the companies out in San Mateo County and Santa Clara County have. So maybe people are saying, look, I'm not going to be able to want to move out there. I'm going to move down to these other areas. That could be a big impact because this is one of the few counties that actually has a decline in prices. Look at days on market, much worse than all those other markets. Right now, it could be a little bit more seasonality. I don't know. I don't know if it's actually seasonality. I think it's just the trends of anything. I think this is a trend of people migrating to specific locations than anything else. Because everywhere else, it's all the same season. It's not like Marin County is way colder or way different than every other place. But interesting stats that you're now exposed to. Number of sales, kind of the same. Other areas you saw there's more sales, so they're kind of going the wrong kind of direction. You can see months of inventory, 2.2 months. This is the lowest list price received relative to the sell price. So interesting facts there. So now the question that you may have, it all depends on the county and depends on your own situation. Is now a good time for you to make a move? The good news is you still have a lot of options on the market. So be mindful of that. Like you do have a lot of choices. It's going to be less than when you get in springtime, but at least there's also a lot less buyers. The other question is why wait, right? If your objective is to move, we've still been getting people into contract in the winter time, in the holiday times, a little bit less stress because there's less competition. But if you're planning to move anyways, maybe you want to get ahead of things because do you think prices will rise in the next few months? I'm personally making the bet, yes. I think we're going to have a really busy time, especially early next year. It's going to start earlier than the normal springtime. So if you think the prices are going to rise, why don't you make a move now if the home is suitable? That's super important. So that's my thoughts and my advice if you're on the buyer's side. If you're on the selling side, you got to think about it. There is more inventory, right? But there's still plenty of buyers. So hopefully that doesn't make too much of an impact on prices. It's key about understanding your market value because the good news is most of you that are watching that own a home, 99%, maybe 95%, depending on when you bought, will likely be profitable, right? Even after all transaction costs. And so the question is, what do you plan to do next with it? You plan to move out, you downsize, you want to upsize, you want to upgrade. Maybe you've done well in stocks and crypto. Maybe you want to invest some of that into the place. So there's all these different things that are certainly doable and possible when it comes to just your overall goals. So it's more about goal setting than, I'm just trying to maximize it. If you want to maximize it, you may be better off waiting to spring. But then if you're trying to buy another place anyways, especially if it's more expensive, it's not gonna be that suitable. It's gonna be more difficult because if you're selling at a number and the percentage are the same, but you're buying a more expensive place, you're actually paying a little bit more. So it all depends on your overall goals. Well, this is a little bit of a change. Leave in the comments below with what you think. Do you like this format more? Do you prefer me going back to what I did before, which is a live update on like the charts and things like that? Maybe you just want me to include charts. Leave it in the comments below. And if you want to go over a game plan to go over your best options, I want to set up a Zoom call with you. My contact details are below. So is the calendar link. I'll see you next time. Bye now.